No. Mark, can you hear us?
I can hear you fine.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom?
Brian.
Okay.
You said,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
thank you.
All right, then I will call the personnel board meeting to order. It is Monday, September 9th, 2024. 45 AM, and we have 3 of our 44 members present. Because we have no one on Zoom, we can just do a hand raise vote. First order of business is approval of the August 12th, 2024 meeting minutes. Any questions or comments?
I move that we approve the meeting
Second.
minutes for August.
Motion's made in second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously. Employee transition report.
Sure. We're very happy to report, the select board did appoint Caitlin Cervello as our new civil engineer for the Department of Public Works. Bill and I are very relieved that she has, signed her and returned her appointment letter, and she is due to start on September 23rd. There's another request related to 3 weeks vacation for her also on the agenda.
See that? Normally I pull it up, Bill, but I promise you the next 2 items will go quickly.
No problem.
All right, any questions on that? Congratulations, I know that was big
Very
priority
excited
for
to
you,
have her
so,
start.
look forward to contributions. Next is update, board discussion and approval, 3A, update on personnel board article, the September 30th, 2024 special planning.
Yep, so the documents in your packet have been submitted to the town administrator for inclusion in the warrant. The only thing we've done differently from last month is added the approval of the personnel board on August 12th. We did want to ask the board whether you wanted this as a handout, or did you want to show any track changes? Or are you comfortable with just what's included in the warrant? What's included in the warrant?
I would just make sure that, to the extent we get any robust questions.
Yeah.
That we just have that available, that, Jay,
On
Hassan, or whoever.
Yeah.
Pull it up if there are questions, but I don't see the need to print all that out.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for town meeting? Okay. I'm gonna skip 3B, and we'll do 3C and D and come back to B. So next is 3C. Approval of vacation request per section 11B2 for the civil engineer. There was a memo in the packet. Were there any questions or comments for Bill, Vanessa, or Mark on this? Okay, is there a motion to approve the request?
Moved.
Or a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous, 3-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
3D is in Delta, approval under 13A in the building department, continuation of the ZBA expanded hours. So there was some information on this with a memo from Chris in the packet, but I do think Mark or Vanessa, if you want to just expand on this and just what you've been having discussions with Chris and others in terms of, this is obviously the second time this request is coming forward to us, so just any additional insight beyond the memo, I think would be helpful on this topic.
Sure. Okay. I'll jump in and Mark will join me if he wants to add anything. So again, this is due to the several 40B projects that are presently before the town right now. You know, there is no time frame on when all of these things will be wrapped up or how long the hearing process will take. So Laura, we have been asking her to work additional hours, and that we would like to continue this request for the next several months. And Chris is watching this very carefully to make sure that her additional hours are allocated not to other stuff in the building department where there is additional staff, but to the work related to the 40B hearings, decisions, notices, talking to council, and so forth.
Are there questions from the board on this?
What's the time frame? So it's difficult to say how long these types of 40B hearings are before the CBA, Michelle. So it's more a month to month, is the hearing continued? Are they looking for additional information? But there are several large projects right now, so it's sort of a month to month to see when the process may wrap up.
And there are no other additional resources in other departments to help with. If she's obviously working on ZBA related
Right.
matters, like to backfill and help conservation, but there's just no capacity anywhere.
Not
correct?
right now,
Okay,
correct.
second question is, and I didn't see it necessarily in the memo, but you are working with Labor Council at each point on this.
Yes.
Right, just to make sure,
Right.
because
So
we
let's
are
do-
crossing between
Yes.
part-time, full-time.
Yep, Brian and I spoke with Labor Council about that, and she said, this really is still, a temporary situation. You're not looking to expand this permanently, so she's comfortable with us checking in with her at certain periods in time,
Okay,
that we would not incur benefits as of now.
so when is the next check-in on this?
I would say probably, end of October, early November. We thought we'd see where we are in, sort of the middle of fall.
Okay, and do you need a vote on this, or is this just an FYI?
I think it would be, because it is a provision in the SAP, I would prefer a vote.
Okay. I will make a motion on this one, but I'm going to just, before I make the motion, I am gonna provision it through November 30th. So that we will take additional action on this in December.
Okay.
And then I would suggest that if you're having verbal conversations with Labor Council, that I would like to see something in at least your files in writing from Kate, that this vote, obviously, you've taken care of any sort of employee benefit matters in terms of part versus full time. And obviously, we'll get another memo or email or something that you'll have if this comes in force again after November 30th. So I will move that the Personnel Board approve the request under section 13A related to the Building Department / CBA through November 30th, 2024. Is there a second?
Second.
For discussion purposes, that means for the November agenda, you're gonna want this, because otherwise that is gonna expire based on that
Yes,
motion.
yeah.
And I'll also add for discussion purposes, subject to documentation on file at the townhouse from Labor Council on this. Okay. Motion's made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? All right, any opposed? That passes 3-0.
Thank you very much.
We will go back now to 3B, which is discussion of existing employee salary structure, salary survey of actual FY 25 rates. So I will introduce this, then we can continue the discussion. So this, I think, we didn't take a formal vote on our goals for the year, but this was clearly our goal for the year, right? There may be other things that come in. When I met with Mark and Vanessa about a week before the meeting, when we set the agenda, there was not much data in, and then magically some data came in and around the time this
Thursday,
agenda
Friday.
packet went out. So I will be honest, I personally did not see what got sent to the board in the packet. My personal preference on this topic is it needs a little organization to try to compare like with like positions and not open the interpretation. Like if we could sit here all day and work through this, I don't know that we're gonna get anything done. Because I don't know how to compare like by like positions. I can certainly read,
That's fine.
I can read the titles and say an accountant certainly sounds like an accountant, as an example.
Right.
But, is a business administrator really a business administrator? Is a building department head really the same? Like, do they include ZBA? Does it not? Right? So now that we do have some data, my recommendation to the board today is that we have Mark, Vanessa, and anyone else that is helping you kind of put this on one piece of paper, side by side, try to figure out and isolate where we think there's problem, but at the same time, because there was, I'll call it a split view on whether this thing goes to the outside or stays on the inside, I think it's important for all of us to make a decision that we take what we've gathered internally and bring back to the board a recommendation from the personnel director, right? Which I don't think we have yet, Mark, unless you're ready to make a recommendation to us today.
No, I think, and you and I have already talked offline, Jason. Like I said, I'll follow my sword on this one. This was trying to do it without letting another month go by. But it obviously is not something that you can sit there and take a look at, as you've said, and determine where some of our issues may or may not be. So, should have just waited on it and waited until next month.
And well, I'm not gonna wait till next month either, so,
Right.
so we'll thread the needle on that one in a second. So, but I also think it's important, so the board doesn't get too far down this on our own, so that we actually have, quotes from vendors that do this work, just with what the options are. Again, it does not commit us to doing anything, but I don't see any reason why we would not go out and solicit quotes so that the board can make a decision of whether they want to do this internally or externally as we move forward. But if we wait till October, then make that decision, then do a procurement process. We can all see how this is going to ripple.
Define the scope of the work for the external consultant.
I mean, we can certainly discuss that here. And my initial thoughts would be that it's really a salary review. I think we've been through enough of the job descriptions and the refinements there. I do want to acknowledge though, right? And I think the consultant's gonna have to help in terms of what's the right process. Like I think, right, the one thing we have, I want to leave it loose enough for them to define the process that's going to work. I think anyone that's gonna come and do this work, if we decide to go outside, has to be made aware of where we fell short last time. And allow them a chance to run the process. To me, I come back to comments I made a few meetings ago. Where I really want to see, if we are gonna do something outside, I want to see it as our quadrennial review, so it's early. But if we're gonna spend money, let's do this the right way. Again, I don't know where I'm at on that point yet, so
Just gather data.
just gathering data, but I think the important part and the important of, if we ask ourselves, what question are we trying to answer? I think we're trying to answer the question of, is every title within our SAP appropriately compensated compared to relative peer groups? Okay, if not, are they at the top? It's not if they're at the bottom, it's inappropriate, right? And that's where the board's gonna have to also make decisions of, right, like, is being at the 75th percentile where we want to be? Do you want to be higher? Do you want to be lower than that? That's the question I'm looking to answer. There are other questions that all of you are looking to answer. We can certainly frame that discussion.
I think I've been on record that so far that I don't think we should spend another dime on outside consultants. Seems to me that most of the problem the last time, and correct me if I'm wrong, was some of the job descriptions. They had, the employees had from job descriptions. Okay, I think we went through all those job descriptions, and as far as I know, they've all been corrected. It should be up to date. So we certainly, you said that what we really want to know is whether we're equivalent in compensation. I don't think we gotta go through anything else, but we have good staff working here in the town.
Great staff.
Yeah, and what you're suggesting, almost if I was the one that was helping to gather all this stuff right now, been going through it for the last month or so. Why am I wasting my time? Because you're gonna go outside anyway.
Well, remember, we agreed to a two-pronged approach. One, do we have a problem? Right? We haven't answered whether we have a problem or not yet. Because we candidly just got the data that's not. So we have to answer that question first. But what I wanna do is because when I see the fact we're now in the fall. And we have one of the earlier town meetings. I don't wanna have a situation where, let's just say hypothetically, the next discussion we have on this topic, we say. Yes, we have a problem. And then we all look at ourselves and say, what are our next steps? And we wait a month to, that's how we got ourselves where we're at right now, so.
Well, what's wrong with asking if there's a problem?
Well, we have to independently validate it. Is, I think, an important part to, to do, which were 90% of the way there, and I imagine if this data had come in. A week earlier than it did. We probably would be able to answer that. I have views, but I haven't had a chance to look at all of it, so I don't want to. Do that without kind of a complete story. We need to be very careful though, because. I've said this a few times that. There's undoubtedly something wrong in some position in terms of relative compensation. However, it doesn't mean we have a holistic. Problem in terms of compensation. We may find it's certain pockets of employees that may or may not be. Even in the same department, do anything even comparable to each other. It may be some department heads and it may be other staff that are not department heads. Like, that's what I just want to be careful of is. I don't want to say there's a holistic problem. I think we can probably acknowledge we're definitely going to find, can you find this? In any organization, public and private, you always have 1, 2, 5, 10 positions. But I also want to be very careful here is, and I don't want to spend another dime on consultancy either, let me be honest. However, we have a natural potential perception of conflict. No matter how we do this, right? If we have any employee at the townhouse look at this, almost every single one of them, other than Mark and Brian, are on are on the SAP. So naturally, right? And then even if you look at Mark and Brian, even though they have the utmost integrity, they supervise some of these employees, right? So we have to create a process that is fair to all employees, right? And that's what I think Mark, as the personnel director that does this for a living in the public sector, needs to do. Obviously, Michelle and others on the board will bring their expertise from outside. That's how I think we're gonna make a decision. And we're not asking anyone to make a decision today, but my goal would be, John, that we have a meeting in 2 weeks with the sole agenda topic of this. Where Mark makes a presentation on what his plan is. And the plan should be based off of. In early identification based on the data that has been pulled from other municipalities. To say this is where we need to focus it. We would also then allow and give the employees a chance to digest that recommendation. And make sure that they are comfortable with the next steps that we're gonna take too. That's my suggestion. I don't know if that involves an external consultant or not, but I think we need to provide what that would look like.
We are the personnel board,
Mhm.
we have a personnel director.
Mhm.
I don't know why. I don't know why an employee on the SAP. Have a. Problem or would resist sitting down to a member of the personnel board or something like that. With, and just have a confidential discussion. As to what. They might. Not like. I mean, the wages. Nobody's ever gonna be paid enough.
No.
But. Well, you're pretty clear with me. I don't.
I understand your view. And look, I personally don't know which direction I want to go yet, but I think we need to bring all the options to the table. To, again, the most important part of this is that the employees have confidence in the path that we take. Because it's gonna be their opportunity for potentially the next 4 years. And we just need to outline what the options are. we can then decide as the personnel board which direction we want to go. We okay with that, with those next steps? Is there anything else you want Mark, Vanessa, or anyone else to gather to help inform and start this process in about 2 weeks?
The only question I have is, I'm looking at some of these rates. Some say FY 24, some say FY 25, so I guess I'm not sure of the comparatively how to judge. So what's the difference? So the FY 25 rate for Hopkinton goes through December.
No, it would have gone through June 30th of 24.
2024, and then you have a different sort of set of rates for Northborough, which is their new rates. So all I'm wondering is, as we're comparing, I don't know if that's a factor or not, but I just noticed.
So I can shed a little bit of light on Hopkinton in particular. They have just appointed a new town manager. You know, that person, they have no HR director right now. That person, the town manager, sets a percentage for employees during the year. Based on the prior year, and because of the transition in town manager, I don't think that had occurred yet.
Okay,
But I can go back to them this week and verify if that's happened.
that sounds good. If you have trouble with that, I just remembered I might know someone I can.
Great.
All right, very good, thank you. Now I'm fine with the path that we've outlined. You may very well have the data we need here. Once we organize it in a way that makes sense, you know, for us, and we can go from there.
And the other thing I've asked is, some came in as annual salaries, some came in as hourly rates. And I realize some jobs become more than a standard 40-hour week, but I think we need to assume on a 40-hour week and, you know, look at that. Yeah, I can understand why. I think accountant was the one that stood out to me, of somewhere on set, probably on contract potentially too. So just something we'll have to normalize, but. So I think in terms of scheduling that meeting, because Dorian isn't here, and I think it's critically important that all 4 of us be part of the vote. We will solicit availability via email. Potentially, let's send that out today.
Yeah.
Just, I'll give you a few.
Yeah, but
I'll give you a few options.
Okay, great.
That we can decide on where we wanna
Okay,
go with that, but again, I will commit to it being a 1 agenda item. With potential meeting minutes, if we wanna do those, but that's it.
Mhm.
Okay, before we get to public comment, is there any other business that anyone wants to conduct today? Okay, public comment. No public comment
Nothing
on the
online.
screen? Okay, then I will move that we adjourn at 9:00. Oh, sorry, I missed board calendar. We'll do the next meeting via email. And then set our October meeting based on what date we pick for the 2nd September meeting. And I fully acknowledge you have town meeting coming up too, but we will.
Yeah.
Work to endeavor on a dual path here. Okay, then I will move that we adjourn at 9:08 AM. Is there a second? Second. Okay, no further discussion.